More important than being able to hit somebody is to not get hit yourself. We are going to spend some time on blocking instead of just a cursory overview the way we did with your two basic punches. Blocking is a matter of being able to react in time. If you've got a bunch of complex blocking systems in what you do, you won't have time to defend yourself in a street attack. I highly recommend that you get on the web and you Google street fights and watch some of those ghetto brawls, baseball brouhahas, the basketball fights, the hockey fights, riots, prison riots. Watch how people instinctively fight. Pay particular attention to how fast that first punch comes in a street fight. It's usually one of these, and it usually comes that fast, and the guy who gets hit is knocked out with the first punch. You see a few videos now of guys squaring up in an intersection or in a playground, and they're beating on each other with some kind of style. But most of the time, it's just somebody sneaks up on somebody else and cold cocks them with one of these overhand rights. Only about 1 in 10 people is left-handed. Most people instinctively resort to the side of the brain they're used to, and when frontal lobe function is gone and everything's down to lower brain function, people do what's instinctive rather than what they're trained, and that's why we train. So we have an edge over the guy who's reacting out of pure instinct. Now, pure instinct wants to do this when we see something coming at our face. Pure instinct wants to close our eyes and lean backwards when something's coming at us. That is really bad fighting technique. Closing your eyes and leaning backwards is just a good way to get yourself killed. Have people play with you a little. Watch yourself when somebody sneaks up on you. What's your first panic reaction? We have to overcome that by motor training. Now I want to show you a basic concept of blocking. In the Marine Corps, they simply call it hold the phone. I think that's probably the best verbal cue I've heard yet for it. I used to just tell people to cover their ear or hold their neck. But hold the phone is just perfect. Most people don't hold the phone like this. Most people want it comfortably placed so they can kind of rest their arm on their pectoral muscles. So you're listening to the phone. You're in perfect position for the basic fundamental block, the one that has to become an absolute reflex for this guy who's coming from the pocket and wants to take your head off on a traffic stop. All the mechanics of it are you're in your regular field interview stance, you're bladed away, you've got your gun away from the bad guy, you've got a nice 6-foot reactionary gap like we all do every time on our traffic stops. And this punch comes straight at your face or comes looping over your side. You don't have time to go through the katas. You've got to have a basic reaction to that punch. This is the best reaction I know. You're simply going to raise your hand, cover your ear, and make sure your elbow comes inside, not outside. We'll very rarely use this as a block. This will come as a block preceding a joint block when you're being attacked by a stick or a knife. But what your basic gut level reaction has to be is simply cover your ear. Now look how much of my vital zone is being covered simply by covering my ear. The guy might be able to hit the frontal bones of my head, but he's going to find out that this bone is harder than metacarpals and phalanges. He's going to find out that this bone can break his hand. Old bare-knuckle boxers used to do the trick of offering the guy their nose, and when he'd throw the jab, they'd simply tuck their head down So the guy's jab would land on this nasty hard bone on the front of their forehead. Boxers don't wear gloves to protect their opponent's face, they wear gloves to protect their hands. So get used to the idea that this part of your head really is hard, your boss is right. When this punch comes, you cover the parts that are damageable. You don't want a broken nose which fills your eye sockets up with blood, and now you've got swelling that you can't control, and you go blind on a traffic stop in the middle of nowhere. You want this hand to simply come up, guard your nose, your chin, and the temple. I speak Greek. The word in ancient Greek for the temple is krotafos, which means the part of the head you hit. That's where the actual name in ancient Greek comes from. These old guys running around beating each other to death with bones and sticks knew exactly where to hit you on the skull to kill you. So when you block, you want to protect that part, and this part. So this block is the first thing you want to develop as a reflex. If the shot is coming from this side, you simply want to do the same thing over here. But bring your elbow in. We tell the kids in our class, Big Bird gets his ribs broken. Because if the guy has any training and you block like this, the next shot's going to be a nice round kick to your floating ribs, and you may die because they can puncture your lungs. So the first reaction I want you to build in from your field interview stance is you see something coming and you don't know what it is. You cover your face, bring your elbow in, and make sure your nose, chin, and temple are covered. Both hands. 1, 2. Be sure the elbow comes in. All you do is hold the phone. First fundamental block.